Welcome to the Leader Impact Podcast. We are a community of leaders with a network in over 350 cities around the world dedicated to optimizing our personal, professional, and spiritual lives to have impact. This show is where we have a chance to listen and engage with leaders who are living this out. We love talking with leaders, so if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions to make the show even better, please let us know. The best way to stay connected in Canada is through our newsletter at leaderimpact.ca or on social media at LeaderImpact. If you're listening from outside of Canada, check out our website at leaderimpact.com. I'm your host, Lisa Peters, and our guest today is Angel Morales. Angel is the Director of LeaderImpact NEXT in Canada. As well, he is very involved in his community and is a board member of several nonprofit organizations. Prior to becoming full-time in vocational ministry, Angel was an entrepreneur and a sales and business development executive in the high-tech industry. He is married to Marianne for 35 years and has two boys, Matthew and Michael. Today, we're going to talk to Angel about the importance of storytelling and how a person or a story can change your life. Welcome to the show, Angel.
Well, Lisa, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, especially I know the people that you've interviewed, high quality people, and
Thank you.
So honored to be here with you.
Well, I'm excited to hear from you because I've heard that Angel tells great stories. So I'm excited to tell, because people don't always remember the person. They may not remember the facts. They don't remember that, but they remember a story and they remember how you made us feel. So
Absolutely.
I thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
All right. So in a previous conversation, I understand that you are not from Canada originally. So just tell us a little bit about your journey to Canada and growing up in a new country.
Absolutely. Actually, I've lived in Canada more than away from Canada. So over about 40 years ago, really dating myself now, the family moved here. And I think I mentioned to you that one of the biggest things that I experienced was this change in culture. And back home, we were, you can actually get by with who your family is and which school you go to, and a lot of that was taken away when I moved here, right? And it's not an uncommon story because I talked to other people who immigrated to Canada. But what I found interesting, Lisa, is that Canada has a way of normalizing opportunities, meaning, in the Bible it says the first will be last and the last will be first. So basically equalizing, right? Because over here, you really rely on your achievement. Your background doesn't really matter as much as what your abilities and skills are. So it's been a blessing being here. I think that's one of the things that I really appreciate about Canada is teaching me all these things and really helping me become a more solid citizen of the earth.
Yeah. Now, you came here, obviously you said young because 40 years ago. Did you come here with your family? How did that work?
Yeah, so my siblings were already here. And then when my dad actually we owned a manufacturing company, a fairly large one. And my thought was everybody was telling me I was going to take over the company. So I was just relaxing and waiting for that to happen. But when my dad died, I was really young at that time. And my mom said, well, you're not ready. You're going to mess things up. So why don't we just join your brothers and sisters in Canada, right? And she said it in a loving way, Lisa.
Yeah.
So we moved here and that was it.
Yeah. I can understand that now when you talk about just, you came to Canada and you weren't that guy that you were at home, right? Like your dad was a wheeler, a big guy, owned a big company. So thank you for sharing that part, just so I could understand that. So, growing up in Canada, I mean, it says in your bio, you became sales and business development executive in high-tech industry. Now you're with LeaderImpact. So how did you transition from high-tech industry to LeaderImpact NEXT?
Lisa, this is where it's interesting how I was reading this morning's devotion and it mentioned that commit your work to the Lord and he will establish a plan for you. Because I didn't really have, my plan was totally different. The Angel Morales plan was totally different. Until one day when I heard from the speaker. He said that there's two parts of our lives: zero to success, and then success to significance. And as what he meant about success was professional success. So on our way to professional success, our travel, we're overtrained and overprepared for that, but we're not really prepared for the success to significance portion. So why I say that? Because that really made an impact on my life when I started thinking, Lord, am I going to be doing the same thing? Chasing after the dollar and the position and all that stuff. I probably have maybe about 20, 30 years of my life left. I want to have more significance because all the success was really feeling empty. And I think a lot of successful people would relate to that. And so when I just prayed and said, God, where do you want me to go? Little did I know that he already had a plan. So everything just happened naturally, but Lisa totally different from what I have envisioned. So even my being part of Leader Impact, I just wanted to take a break because I was busy. I was running a business. I was, in our church, I had several leadership positions, board of deacon, chair of finance committee. So I was getting drained. And I said to the guy who invited me, Greg, I said, Greg, I just want to consume. I just want to relax, join a group where I can learn. And he pointed me to my current group, which is with the A&J Campbell Group. Now, these leaders are, they're used to running large organizations, and they are good at making people or bringing out the best in people. And I guess they realized that the two of them, Don and Denis, realized that they cannot ask me for my commitment right at the beginning. So they allowed me to experience things. And as the day goes on, the years goes on, I really saw the value of Leader Impact, and I fell in love with the movement, and I just wanted to be more part of it. And then about maybe about a year and a half ago, the opportunity came up to lead the Leader Impact Next initiative, and so the rest is history.
Yeah, and we'll come back to what Leader Impact Next is, because it's a sort of a little different than Leader Impact, but for everyone. So now, I know that you recently traveled on a global exchange to the Dominican Republic, and you went there ready to teach. And from what I heard from some of the people that were there, you shared stories. You changed your mind. You shared stories. And for maybe the reason that you knew that sharing stories might have more impact. But why did you feel this need to share stories versus teaching? When did that happen? Like, when did you go, okay, this isn't what I'm supposed to share right now? What's that moment?
Interesting question, Lisa, because I've always been fascinated by storytelling. Even in sales, I've actually found that storytelling is the way to go, right? If you want to be remembered, or if you want your message to be remembered. I mean, even Jesus used stories and parables, right? 2,000 years later, people are still remembering and talking about the prodigal son and the good Samaritan story. Even my non-Christian friends knows those stories. So the stories make impact. When I was at when I was at Dominican Republic, it was really an ego thing. I said, I know all these stuff. I will teach these people what I know. But then as I listened to the room, people were really responding to the stories of the speaker before me. And I realized, wait a minute, they're not here to listen to Angel Morales. They're here because they're looking for wisdom. And so, Angel Morales doesn't have much wisdom. I do have a lot of friends who has all the wisdom. So I just, I remember standing up and going to the person who was running the PowerPoint system. And I said, I got to change this. You know what? Scratch that. I have 2 slides, and that's what we're going to focus on. And then, of course, people were going, okay, what is Angel doing now, right? But and then I remember that lesson, and I just went back to it. That storytelling really makes an impact.
Yeah. Well, as an event planner, if you would have came up to me like, yeah, you know what? I got something totally different. Scrap the slides. I'm like, what?
And I saw their eyes, yeah.
Yeah, I get it. So what I'm hoping today is that, there were stories of impact. And obviously, some of the stories you said in the Dominican Republic changed people's lives. I haven't heard them yet, Angel. I don't know if you have any that you can share with us.
Yeah, well, there's a couple of things that comes to mind. A couple of them, not necessarily I shared it at Dominican, but I thought I'd share it with you because I was reflecting on those stories. One of my favorite stories was when this is when we were raising funds for our company, and I was talking to this our one of our initial investors. She's a lady, and she said, Angel, I really appreciate the time that you and your partner Kevin spend with me, and I really consider you guys as my brother, which was amazing, right? And she said, but I'm a Buddhist. I'm not a Christian like you guys. And so I said, oh, okay, well, that's interesting. How's that working out for you? And she said, well, you know what? Uh, it's for me, it's challenging my because of my past life. I'm affected by my life today. I said, how so? She goes, if I was perfect in my last life, I would be a male today who's a successful businessman. I said, why
Oh,
is that? Because apparently men, now I'm not sure if this is, all thinking of Buddhists, but for her, she said that the ultimate position would be a successful businessman. And so I said, well, that's very interesting. I said, Christ was a game changer because the most important message for Christians is his resurrection. And guess who he entrusted that? To the women. And at that time, I went on to explain that at that time, women were considered, second class citizens, that they're not even, their testimonies are not admissible in court. I said, there's so many stories that Jesus has that is a game changer for women that time. That's why, I do believe that if women today really heard who Jesus is, get to know him, they would have a pin in their, a lapel that says, I'm a follower of Jesus because he just, changed the game for women at that time.
yeah.
And so she was listening intently, and she said, hmm. And then a few weeks later, she called me up and said, Angel, I bought a Bible because I want to know more about this Jesus guy you're talking about. And so that blew me away because a normal, just an average conversation that happened, I really cared about the person. And, that led her to actually investigating more about
Yeah.
Christ. So that's one of the stories.
It's interesting because I think I get people to come at me with women read the Bible, and I have done this, so I am right in there. And there's language in there that we struggle with, to submit. And I think women then back up, right? They're like, I'm a powerful, senior advisor, CEO, and we're not reading it. I'm not sure where you know what I mean, though. And I don't know if you can,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yes, because we read it and we think we're supposed to submit. That's not what it means. As a woman, like, hey,
Yeah. And because the background is missing, right? People who are not aware of what the Bible background is, only their references today. Of course, women has
yes,
equality today, right? But during that time, when you consider the Roman times, uh, the head of the family, which is the man, had all the power that can even put his wife to jail or execute them, right? So what Paul is saying in that letter is that no, that's not acceptable. You have to while he says women submit to your husbands, it was on that context that
yeah,
uh, during those times, right? But he also prefaced it by saying, "Hey, you men, get it together. You have to be the head in terms of providing for your wife and kids, and don't allow them to get harmed." Right? So
mhm,
I'm not doing justice with the backstory, but it's got a more richer background if you really do research on what it was like during the Romans times. But
yeah. Um, Thank you for sharing that. All right, you probably have another story because you're the guy. You're the story guy.
um, oh, the other one is another favorite story of mine is one of the gentlemen that I got close to. And he sold his company and moved to a very nice neighborhood in Mississauga. And and he said, I wanna share leader impact with people that I know, and so he started baking cookies and going door to door, knocking on his neighbors' houses, and introduce himself bringing these cookies. And then he took it to the next level in terms of showing kindness. Like whenever there's a snow, he would shovel their driveway, and they're wondering, who is this guy? This guy is a successful business guy, and yet he's shoveling my snow. But he showed them love and kindness to the
Mm-hmm.
point wherein he started inviting them to a study, that leader impact study, that talks about, yes, spirituality, definitely, Christian values and Christian teaching, which a lot of these people don't really go to church and wouldn't really appreciate if they were invited to church, right? So, but they started getting interested in who he is, and
Mm-hmm.
and now they have a study group wherein most of the people that in the study group are non-Christians, and they're hearing about how Jesus has changed his life. So the point there, why I found that interesting, is because a lot of people thinks that if you get invited to church, it's very uncomfortable. But what my friend did was show them first what it was like to be a Christian, and then
Yeah.
invited them to his house. So he opened up his house.
We talk a lot about that and just meeting them at their place, right? They're comfortable on the street, or outside their houses, or just come on in, versus like you said, church may be scary, or they're scared to go, or that's a good story. And I think we forget how simple it is to share your story. And even kindness, when people look at you and they're like, he's a business guy, she's a successful lady, how does she have this time to be so nice? Or what makes her so nice? What is it that she has that I don't have? And I just want to hear more.
Yeah, and you know what? As leaders, we are in business. We're surrounded by people who are always trying to have their own agenda, right? They want to connect with you. Maybe they have something that could benefit you, but really the agenda is me first. And then you
Yeah.
meet someone like the people that we have at Leader Impact, who actually opens up, and who really has a heart to reach out and help people first, right?
Yeah.
And it's genuine, and that's one of the things that attracted me to Leader Impact, is that I was surrounded with business people who were genuinely interested in my well-being, and these are people that are 10 times more successful than I am, and yet they don't really want anything from me, but just wants to help, and wants to have that relationship.
Yeah. Um, for all our listeners, when I first met Angel online, I was telling him of a story, because he talked about story. So I will tell everyone here. I was all of a sudden had this idea, and it was such a great work idea, and I really wanted to work on it. I started writing things down, and who I'm going to call, sort of the project plan. And all of a sudden I look over, and it's like, oh, there's dust over. I should clean that dust. And I got distracted. And all of a sudden this project was a good thing in every way. And all of a sudden it was like, oh, dust. I hate dusting. But yet I went over there and I got pulled. And as I was telling you this project, it hit me. It's like someone does not want me working on that project because it is so good and it will bring glory to God. And I just went, oh, dust, And at that moment, I realized how easy it is to get distracted. When you're doing something so good, you can get pulled. It's just like a squirrel.
Absolutely. So see, Lisa, I remember that story. See, you're a storyteller, and that actually reminded me that the biggest enemy of our mission, when you're on a mission or when you're on a goal, is really distraction. That
Yeah.
is the biggest enemy that we have, right? Because it's very subtle. Sometimes it's an innocent thing like a dust, and you look over there, and then next thing you know, you're getting sucked into something that you didn't really want to go to, right?
No.
So yeah, so stories are very good, and distractions. So two things there, right? That you just
Yeah.
proved. Stories, really stick with you, and distraction is an enemy of success.
Yes. And I wished I would have known that when I was in high school, because I got distracted a lot. There was
Yeah,
always something better to do than study. Anyway.
right.
So I'm just going to move on to your personal journey to faith. And I don't know your story. Have you always been, that guy that went to church, or, did it come later in life, or a little bit of your story?
There's two parts of my spiritual journey, right? So the first one was when I grew up in a very religious home. So early in life, I would join my mom going to church almost every day, and I've learned to pray the rosary and all of that stuff, because every time I would do that, I'd get pat in the back and say, "Oh, what a good kid you are." Right. And then so I said, okay, well, what is this religion thing? And then uh, growing up, it was more of, the more you do for God, the more He will love you. But then I was hanging around with a cousin of mine who actually, at 12 years old, asked me an interesting question. He said, "Angel, if you died today, where do you think you would go?" Well, I said, "I'm trying to be good enough. Hopefully, God will let me enter heaven if I die today." And he goes, "Well, no, me, I know for sure I'm going to heaven." And I said, "That's pretty arrogant of you. I know you. How do you know that you're good enough?" Then he said a life changing answer, right? He said, "Well, Angel, I know I'll never be good enough. That's why I
Oh,
need Christ." And I said, "Wow, I've never heard of that before." Now, remember, Lisa, I was religious, but I never really read the Bible. And
yeah.
so he opened up this Bible. We actually had this pamphlet. It's a yellow one called Four Spiritual Laws, which is another story that I will tell you. And so he went through it with me. What got me was there was this picture of me trying to reach God, and there's a chasm that's a huge chasm that no matter how much I try, I'll never reach. And then the next page, it was God who was really reaching to me. And that blew me away. I said, "What? You mean all this time I'm trying to be good? It's actually God that was trying to reach me." And so I said, "I got to know who this God is." Now, again, I'm a religious guy, right? But religion never really got me close to God. In fact, that's where I learned that religion is not going to help save me. It's really a relationship with Christ.
Hmm.
And so that changed my trajectory, right? And then the second part of my life was when it's related to that story of success to significance, because
Hmm.
I was a closet Christian, for meaning, we talk about the Great Commission, right? So I was happy to be in the bubble. I was hanging out with my Christian friends. I was leading with my Christian friends. Every day was life with my Christian friends. But then again, what about my non-Christian friends? I was even afraid to actually share my faith, right? But so that's when I decided to say, okay, God, I got to change this, right? And so again, I wish I could say that there was one defining moment, like a Damascus experience, Lisa, but there wasn't. It was organic, because I think God knew how to um, help me, how to make me better, and I'm a slow learner, so it took him years before I said, okay,
Yeah,
now I see what it is, right? So yeah, yeah.
I'm right there with you, slow learner. I get it. So you referenced four spiritual laws. Do you have a story?
Yes. So a few years ago, we invited a good friend of mine, Greg Hinzelman, over to our group to talk to us about what this for spiritual, how he shares the message of Christ in a loving way, in a safe way, in a non-threatening and non-offensive way, right? And so he pulls up this yellow book, and I said, "Wait a minute. I recognize that. That's what my cousin used on me when I was 12 years old." So all these years I've been at Leader Impact, I never realized that that pamphlet was actually put out by Power to Change, or
Oh,
its crew, right? And so that blew me away. I said, "Okay, well, interesting how it comes to full
yeah.
circle. The tool that was used on me was something that I'm part of that organization now."
Isn't that interesting
Yeah.
how it just came around? Yeah, I love that. Um, so you are in a leader impact group right now. Tell us a little bit about your experience and maybe what you're studying or what you're talking about right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So um, I mentioned to you that when I first joined, I just wanted to be really a consumer. And what attracted me with Leader Impact is when you're in business, you're always around people, and not necessarily, uh, you feel safe, right? A lot of times when you're a leader, you feel lonely. And people just don't get what you go through. Like even at church, when I'm with other people, it's different when you're with peers, right? And so Leader Impact allowed me to be with peers where I can be safe, when I can feel I
Mhm.
belong. And also, confidentiality is critical for our group. So whatever we share within our group stays within our group. Even our
Yeah.
spouses doesn't know what we go through, what's shared in the group, right?
Yeah.
And so, but I've seen lives change. I've seen people who were depressed, who were felt alone, really transform, and they became a lot of my friends, when you ask them, my friends at Leader Impact, they would say because of Leader Impact they became better husbands, better leaders, better employers, better all around. Now I say husband because all of our my group is all guys, but I'm sure that on the
Yep.
co-ed groups, they're saying they're better spouses. Right? So,
Right.
but the stories are consistent. You know, people's lives have changed for the better,
Yeah.
and so that's what attracted me to Leader Impact, to the point where. My friends were saying, "Oh, Angel, at the beginning, I said I don't really want to lead, but can you co-lead?" So I would experience co-leading. I said, well, this is pretty good. I get energized with it. Oh, by the
Hmm.
way, can you join our city team? Can you join our community? Next thing I know, I was actually co-chair of our York region and city team. And when I look
Yeah.
back, I don't know what happened. And then I look over to my co-leaders and they're smiling because they knew what they were doing. They
Yeah.
were master recruiters.
Oh, that's good. Um, and it's funny when I know you were invited to a group, so you obviously met someone and they invited you to a group. There are many people out there who are listening, and we say, call us, join a group, which is overwhelming. I mean, if you don't know anyone, and so what we've done, and we'll at the end just if you want to find out more about us, we've just posted a leadership assessment. We've posted it on our Canada site. So we're going to direct people there and, just start there, right? I think it's less scary because
Absolutely.
unless you're invited and someone sort of holds your hand and shares those stories, it can be overwhelming to join a group, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
that's why, we say check us out, right? But,
Yeah.
for my experience, Lisa, um, when I checked out the group, right off the bat, I realized that this guy doesn't need anything from me. So
Mm.
why are they welcoming me? So it's a safe environment because you know how it
Yeah.
is when you're always thinking, okay, what's in it for
Yeah.
them?
Yeah.
But the trust is there. Right? You quickly realize that these guys and girls are really good people to be around with. And so what I'm saying is that no commitments first, just experience it, and then you can decide for yourself.
Yeah. Good one. All right. So you are leading Leader Impact Next program. So I don't know if you can tell us a little bit more about that program.
Absolutely, it's really what. How do we help the next generation? You mentioned earlier that some of the things that we learn now, if we learned about it when we were in high school or earlier, right? Well, during the younger days, we'll be much better person all around, much better leader. We'll probably
Mhm.
accomplish a lot. Yeah, because your journey has to be with people that you like, right? So uh, and so I started thinking, okay, well, when the opportunity came out, what are we going to do for our next generation? Well, we need to be more intentional. I knew that from my business development background that whatever you focus on, that's what grows, right? And if you don't focus, there's no ownership on this program. It's not going to grow. Certain things in organization does not really grow organic. There has to be intentionality. And
Yeah.
so when that opportunity came up, I said, well, you know what? Let's see what it goes. So it's just, people always hear me say, intuition builds our initial strategy, but it's the data that drives our direction. And so I didn't know what it was going to look like in the beginning, but I said, okay, let's collect data. Let's try to see what's out there in the marketplace. And guess what, Lisa? There's a whole bunch of people on one side, up and coming leaders who are hungry for mentorship, who are looking for someone to guide them. And then on the other side, there's successful business people who not only are successful in business but in life, that they have a message to teach the next generation. But because we're both busy on our own world, somebody needs to connect that. And all I need is just a few good men and women who are going to say, hey, let's let's own that connection point. And that's what really Leader Impact is. Leader Impact Next. The other thing that I've been involved with, entrepreneurship startup hubs. In fact, I was working with U of T in one of their entrepreneurship programs. That's where I realized that uh, people who are entrepreneurs need to be in an environment as well where they can belong, right? And also found that businesses who are in a startup hub has a higher chance of success. So I said, well, why don't we do the same principle and look at our next generation? Who are the ones that are hungry now? So let's put them in an accelerator program. But if they're saying, I just want to grow first, right? I'm not really that hungry yet. So let's put them in an incubation program. So similar to a startup company, do you put them in an incubation program or an accelerator program?
Right.
There's so much alignment between, ministry and also business that it just makes. And the most rewarding piece, Lisa, is that uh, it's people are coming up to me with fantastic ideas. It's not my ideas are I'm just there sort of like a curator of all of these ideas that people are coming up with. And so that's what makes it really, really exciting, because there's a need for the next generation. There's also a group of people who actually have a heart to help them.
Yeah. Now, if anyone wants more information on the next program, it's on our website, right? If you just go to leaderimpact.ca and then there's a tab up top, next.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, good. All right.
Easy.
Okay, so I have two final questions for you, to which I ask everyone, and Leader Impact is dedicated to leaders having a lasting impact. I think success to significance and beyond, but your lasting impact. So as you continue to move through your own journey, Angel, have you considered what you want your faith legacy to be when you leave this world?
So yeah, I thought about that question, and really, Lisa, what this may sound corny, but what I would really like to hear is that when someone asks somebody, when did you get to know about Jesus Christ, and they say, well, when did Angel pass away? Because it was that day that he shared with me who Jesus was and set me in a journey. So it's not as much as who Angel Morales is, but the relationship that I help point people to Jesus that really drives me.
Oh, Angel, that's nice. And our last question is, what brings you the greatest joy?
Oh, I experience that a lot these days, especially working as a staff now at Leader Impact. Whenever I see people, both in the ministry who are starting to be discouraged, depressed, and I just remind them of. Sometimes you hear that voice, right? That encourage them because it's a passage in the Bible that you've heard, or something that I myself experienced. And when I share that with people, when I see their eyes light up because they remember the goodness of God, and that moment, that's what energizes me. And also when I meet leaders who are, who are depressed and alone, and then I, you know, just remind them of an encouraging thought, and then they remember how much God loves them.
Yeah.
When you see the spark in their eyes, that's what energizes me. And Lisa, I get to do that almost every day now. That's been a blessing. Yes, I've left the corporate world to go into full-time vocational ministry. I think that's very important because I think all of us are in, who are our believers are in full-time ministry. It's just I chose to be in vocational ministry, and and I get to see that every day, and I get to meet folks like yourself who just encourages me a lot.
Wow.
One thing
You encourage.
Well, sorry, Lisa. One thing I would be really, really interested in it is interviewing you and getting to know who you are, because you have a lot of stories to tell.
I have a lot of stories. I think that's why I keep showing up here every 2 weeks, is to hear the stories, because you talked about an encouraging voice, and the Leader Impact. For me, I show up to my meetings every Wednesday morning at 7 a.m. Regina time, and because I need to be there as much as they need me to lead their group. It's that encouraging voice. And so for anyone listening, I think if you don't have that, reach out to us. We've got lots of encouraging voices, and we want to surround you.
Absolutely. It's the best stop of the week. It will be the best stop of the week for them.
That's like I think that's a tagline, best stop of the week. I hear that a lot.
I just told that to my colleagues at in the York region. So they came up with that tagline.
Yeah. Well, this ends our time, Angel. I want to thank you for joining us and just sharing your stories, because they do make a difference. And I hope people listening just sort of feel a little lifted up and feel a little encouraged and inspired. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, Lisa.
Oh, we loved it. All right. Well, this ends our podcast with Angel Morales, and we hope you enjoyed our time together. And, before we go, Angel, if people want to engage with you, how can they reach you?
Yeah, either look at my LinkedIn profile or angelm@leaderimpact.com.
Yeah. And is your contact information off the LeaderImpact NEXT? If they go to leaderimpact.ca and the NEXT program?
If they send a message there,
they'll find you. All right. And a name like Angel, we won't forget. All right. All right. Well, again, thank you for joining us. And if you're part of Leader Impact, you can always discuss or share this podcast with your group. And if you're not yet part of Leader Impact and would like to find out more and grow your leadership, find our podcast page on our website at leaderimpact.ca and check out our free leadership assessment. You can also check out groups available in Canada at leaderimpact.ca, or if you're listening from anywhere else in the world, check out leaderimpact.com, or get in touch with us by email, info@leaderimpact.ca, and we will connect you. And if you like this podcast, please leave us a comment, give us a rating or a review. This will help other global leaders find our podcast. Thank you for engaging with us, and remember, impact starts with you.